Hello and welcome back to One World. I'm LYNDA KINKADE. Good to have you with us. I want to return now to our top story, the fighting in Sudan. A temporary truce was supposed to go into effect this hour. So far, there are signs that both sides may be easing up on that fighting. Earlier, we had conflicting reports. Sudan's army general and paramilitary force leader had agreed to a ceasefire, but Sudan's military discounted that later on Facebook. Meanwhile, civilians are caught in the crossfire, trapped in their homes, many without electricity and running out of food and water. The UN reports that at least 180 people have been killed so far. Diplomats are also coming under fire. CNN anchor Christina McFarlane has more on the fighting and how much needed international aid is being impacted.
Fighting rages on in Sudan's capital, Khartoum. Key targets are the airport and the presidential palace state TV broadcaster. And it's not limited to the capital, fighting also spreading in other parts of the country. Water and electricity cut off, hospitals coming under fire. At least 180 people killed since fighting started on Saturday, according to the Central Committee of Sudan Doctors. Diplomats also in the line of fire.
I can confirm that yesterday we had an American diplomatic convoy that was fired on. All of our people are safe and unharmed. But this action was reckless, it was irresponsible, and of course unsafe.
And the EU Foreign Policy Chief, Josep Borrell, confirming a European Union ambassador was assaulted in their residency in Sudan. A worsening situation as the international community scrambles to find a solution.
I strongly condemn the outbreak of fighting that is taking place in Sudan and appeal to the leaders of the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces to immediately cease hostilities, restore calm, and begin a dialogue to resolve the crisis.
The latest fighting making an already dire situation in Sudan much worse. 3 World Food Programme employees have been killed in the fighting, forcing the United Nations to temporarily shut down many of its more than 250 programmes across Sudan, leaving an estimated 16 million people without much-needed aid. A reminder of the true human toll of armed conflict.
Thanks to Christine McFarlane for that report. Well, time now for the exchange. Let's bring in an activist and former journalist who has tweeted and retweeted extensively about the conflict in Sudan, including this image of a market completely destroyed by violence. DALLIA ABDELMONIEM joins us now from Khartoum. Thank you so much for your time. You live in the capital where fighting erupted 4 days ago. There is supposed to be a ceasefire underway right now. What are you hearing and seeing?
There is no ceasefire. Even before 6 o'clock came, they started shooting. We heard, gun blasts. We heard, artillery fire, ammunition being fired. I mean, I don't know. It stopped now, but it was going on for like a good 25 minutes. So there is no ceasefire. I read a statement from the RSF saying that they were fired upon by the army and that the army broke the ceasefire. I would just like to add, if anyone actually believes that either of these two gentlemen would actually uphold the ceasefire after all that's happened in the past few months and especially in the past few days, they're living in La La Land because they have no intention of holding up any ceasefire.
And I understand, DALLIA, that your house is close to a RSF base. How often are you hearing this heavy artillery?
Out of 24 hours in a day, we might go with like 3 hours at most without hearing anything, but it usually starts around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning and continues on until mid-morning, and then they take a break, and then they start all over again. We literally cannot sleep because of the sound. It just, the windows keep shaking. It feels like it's right on top of your head. And you can't sleep because you don't know if something's going to fall, if something's going to come through the window, shrapnel, glass. So it's been horrible, to say the least. And where we live, close to the army, close to the airport, close to the general command, and close to the hub of the majority of the RSF base and headquarters and offices. We're in the heart of the clashes between the two sides.
And Dahlia, obviously so many people have spoken about access to basic necessities, too afraid to leave their house to go outside, even if there is a store open. How are your supplies holding up in terms of food, clean drinking water, medicine?
We're okay. We're okay in that sense. We're fine. We're rationing everything, rationing the use of water, rationing the food we eat, and we don't need, we have the basic medicines that we need, like painkillers and so on. So we're fine in that sense. But I think if this goes on any longer, then we will suffer and we will start to need to go, I don't know, find a way to get supplies in.
You've written about why the army doesn't want a ceasefire, or why neither side want it. How do you see this playing out over the coming days, potentially weeks?
I think basically either side is waiting for the other, like, to not admit defeat, but like to grind to a halt, so to speak. And it seems that the army is the one who's making headway into the RSF, stronghold. And I think that's why they're not really comfortable or happy about the ceasefire, because they've gained ground on the RSF and they want to maintain that. So I don't think anything will happen until one side is considered the loser, or they admit defeat, or something like that happens. But I am hoping that the diplomatic efforts will step in and, it brings to fruition something. But I'm not holding my breath for that to happen.
Talk to us about those diplomatic efforts. Which countries do you think can have some sway here to help end this violence?
I think some of the African nations, and definitely the likes of Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, would definitely have a strong say in the diplomatic efforts. I don't think the U.S. efforts are being heard or even acknowledged. I mean, I read that the Secretary of State released a statement saying that the two sides agreed to a ceasefire. Immediately after that statement came out, they started shooting at each other this morning. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm not holding my breath for anything to happen, but I am hoping. I'm being hopeful. I'm trying to be optimistic as much as I can be, considering the circumstances that we're in. But,
yeah, exactly. DALLIA ABDELMONIEM, we appreciate your time. We wish you all the best. Please stay safe, and hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Well, still to come on One World. Israel pauses to remember the 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust.